take my hands. Take them. This is a safe space for, for you to cry. As with anyone who's listening, everyone can cry. Take our hands. But... Now you open your hands to our guests. Open them.
You can't see them. Hi, and welcome to Just One More Cookie, a podcast about two sisters' journeys toward complete health and wellness. We definitely don't have it all figured out, and we're still in the thick of it, but we are enjoying the ride. We'd love for you to come and join us for just one more cookie.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just One More Cookie. My name is Amy.
And I'm Abby.
And thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode that is going to be a little bit different than the ones that we've done in the past. Normally, for organization purposes, we have like a docket and science and research, and then sometimes we just have pseudoscience, but science. But this time we really just want to have a conversation. So if this sounds like you are on the phone with me and Abigail and we're just talking, that's what we want this to be, because this topic is really sensitive and it's going to hit home with a lot of people. So we're going to tread lightly. We're going to do our best to share our experiences and the things that we have researched. And we hope that this gets you thinking, gets you talking, and most importantly, really gets you accepting you. And we'll dive more into that in a little bit. But as always, we are on YouTube. We are a video podcast, and we're also a podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you are listening to us on any podcast platform, leave a review for us, because that just helps us get more traction. And we just want to hear from you. We want to hear from our community. Also, we have an Instagram page. It is at One More Cookie Pod, and where we share little clips of our episode, and we're going to be a little bit more active on there as well, sharing stories and such on that page. So make sure that you get on that page. And then to kick us off, as always, we are going to share our favorite thing, and Abigail has a favorite thing that she wants to share.
Yeah. So, when we talk about health, we always talk about how it's all encompassing, and there are so many aspects of health that don't have to do with just your physical health. So today I wanted to share with you something that I have found to be super helpful in my financial health. I don't remember what episode, but we talked about before. I had shared that in the past, I have had a really hard time budgeting. And part of it was I just didn't know what to do. So I just ignored it because I didn't want to face it, because I had no idea what to do. So I can't remember who told me about this app, but there is an app from Dave Ramsey. Some of you might be familiar with him. He's pretty well known in money managing and talking about ways to handle money and budget. But he has this app, and it's called Every Dollar. You can do, it's completely free. You can do a paid version where they link into your bank account, so that way any transaction actually goes in there. But what I love about it, and those who are Weight Watchers and are used to tracking with the app, it's if you're a tracker, it is so perfect, because you break it apart. So the first at the top, it has what your monthly income is. So you put in, your paychecks, how much you're going to make. Like with me, I also get a mileage check every month. So I put that in, and then you can it has it all broken down into specific little chunks. So for example, like there's one for tithing and giving. There's stuff that just has to do with your home. So like your mortgage, your water, electricity. And then there's ones for, like your social. So like, your telephone, your cable, and then just stuff to do, like food, what your grocery bills are. And then you can actually see where you're putting all of your money. And then you can put in your debt, like your credit card debts. If you have any loans, you can put those in. It helps you with suggestions on how to pay stuff off. And then you can go in and just every transaction that you make, you can put it in. So that way you can see where your money is going. And then you also, it really helps you to be more accountable, because if I know I've put $500 in my grocery bank for this month, when I start to get closer, then I need to think, okay, well, my next grocery trip, I need to cut back on what I'm going to spend, or I need to take it from somewhere else that I didn't end up using as much money, and I'll put it towards groceries. So it's just such a nice way to organize your finances if you really want to get a control on your finances and focus more on your financial health. I really think that it'll be a benefit for you. So check it out. It's called Every Dollar by Dave Ramsey. You can get it in the App Store. Super helpful.
Yeah, and we're going to put the link, as always, in the show notes, both for YouTube and any podcast platform that you're listening. And we do that with all of our favorite things, so you can have access and try it out, and because it's free. One of the things that I have found, it's like accountability, right? With eating, accountability with how you spend your money, really is just a matter of disciplining yourself. I know one thing that I have been trying to do in this last year is pay down my debt, except my student loans. Those will go to the grave with me. I will defer them until I die. Or we get somebody in office that eradicates them. Or listen, if you're a hacker or if you are a criminal, what are you waiting on? That's your job. If you're listening now and you're a hacker or a criminal, please go to the government student loans and erase all of it. But anyways, I have been real adamant with paying down my credit card bills because I really want to travel. And so many of us want to do big things with our lives, and we make excuses. And one of the biggest excuses is I don't have the money to. And I think that's such a sad excuse, because sometimes we want to travel, or we want to purchase certain things, or we want to invest. And it's like the only thing stopping us is just disciplining ourselves. So I think that's a great opportunity to discipline yourself. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so today's topic is very layered. And like I said, we're going to take this slowly, and we're going to attack this from as many angles as we can, also with sharing our personal stories. So we are going to be talking about the body positivity movement. We're going to be talking about our own experience with it, what we have found just from researching it, and the experiences that many people have had with this idea of body positivity. So I'm going to start with what I presumed it to be. So when I had first heard about the body positivity movement, I kind of turned up my nose to it. I was like, this is stupid. Because what I thought it was specifically women making an excuse for not being healthy. So because people wanted to be lazy, they were just like, well, I accept my body as it is, whatever that looks like. And they were still being unhealthy, but they were accepting their bodies or flaunting their bodies. And I really I got a lot of judgment towards it, because I was like, well, why would they do that? They're wrong. But the more that I researched it, the more that I realized that the roots of the body positivity movement is so much deeper and so much closer to home. Because the roots of the body positivity movement is acceptance of your body where it is right now, and loving your body where it is right now. And that doesn't mean that you don't take care of your health. That doesn't mean that, you walk around outside naked and say, if I got it, I'm going to flaunt it. It is simply looking at your body and saying, I love you. Where you're at right now, I am grateful for. I love my body. And when I was listening to so many of these YouTube videos and people talking about accepting your body and loving your body, I got so emotional because I feel like, specifically from a feminine side for women, that from an early age, we are indirectly taught to hate our bodies, that they are not enough, that they're not good enough, that no man is going to accept what we have, that in society we are not accepted. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we do. It will never be enough. So from a very early age, and it depends too, the environment that you grow up in, and the situations that you've been through, the level of self-hate that you have. But from a very young age, I feel like, and it could be similar with men, but I know specifically with women that this is a much bigger issue, that our relationship with our body gets so skewed that it's almost like we become an enemy of our own body. It's like we're living in this body, but every day we hate it. And that's the part that like devastated me, because then it was like memories, right? All the things that I have done to my body, things I've said about my body, and how verbally abusive. I am in like an abusive relationship with my own body.
Well, I think that's the problem. I was listening to a TED Talk actually, which I think was really great. We should link it in the notes. So she called it self-objectification, which everybody's heard about, how women are so objectified in our society, and they are. And we're taught from a very young age, like you said. I mean, it's part of our society. There is this unrealistic expectation of beauty, and basically the self-objectification. And she said, if you are so focused on what you look like, whether it's positive or negative, you're guilty of this. And you're constantly, it's like you're obsessed with it. And it's like you're removing yourself from your own body and looking from the outside and judging it. Instead of looking at who you are as a person, you're looking at what I look like. And that's all. The only thing that we care about is our appearance. And I shouldn't say what we care about, but it feels like that's what we value the most. And a lot of times when we are trying to lose weight or be healthier, it's so natural to have that as part of your motives. I mean, we can't help it. Even me, it's like, I want to be healthy, but at the same time, I want to look better. It's human nature. And I feel like it's so hard to not obsess over it. And I think I had the same initial reaction that you did to the body positivity movement. And I mean, I do think that there are people out there that are using it as, I can look however I want and people should accept me even with my unhealthy behaviors, and I shouldn't have to change. I shouldn't have to try to be healthy. I shouldn't have to try to be active and care for my body and love it and make sure that it gets what it needs to survive. I think people do sometimes use that as an excuse, as I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to live my life how I want and everyone should just accept me. I think that it all has to do with balance, as everything is. I feel like you can be at that end of the spectrum when you use it as an excuse, but at the same time, I think that the premise behind it of loving your body at whatever state it is in is really amazing. But at the same time, thinking, I love my body where it is at this moment, but I also love it enough to say, I want the best for it. So if that means I need to change something or I need to put something into place, I think that's where all the power comes from, is recognizing that.
Yeah, and I wanna challenge something that you said, because this is the part that I sometimes struggle with, is this idea that smaller is prettier. That, because even the standard, right? The standard that we're moving towards, is this a standard of health, or is this based on what we've been shown our entire life, right? Because even from the standpoint of health in general, if I go just from going to the doctor's office and I had a checkup, And when I went on the checkup, like my panels were amazing. Everything was amazing. I'm extremely active. If I gave you what I ate every single day, like I'm very adamant about what I put into my body. I move all the time. I bike everywhere. I rollerblade. Like I'm active, and I've been active for years. And yet and still my weight connects me to morbid obesity. And this is something that I continue to fight. But at the same time, when I look at my body, it's like, am I ever going to be satisfied with it? Is it
Mhm.
ever going to be enough? Like I remember listening to this podcast, and there's this woman, she had been overweight, and you listened to it too. I remember we like cried over it after we
Yeah.
listened to it. But she had spent most of her life being morbidly obese, lost all this weight, and she noticed how she started to be treated differently. And it's not because the people around her was like, oh my gosh, you're so much healthier. It was this concept of now you're prettier. Now
Mhm.
you're more physically appealing. It's like, I don't care how we spin it. We worship thin. We
Mhm.
worship this ideal. And sometimes it's not even ideal, right? Because even after she lost all of that weight, now she hated herself for the loose skin. So now it wasn't the weight. Now she's hating herself for all the loose skin. And then she's in a relationship, can't even enjoy the relationship because she feels like the man that she's in a relationship wouldn't even really love her at the size she was. So now
Well, I mean, and to be fair to her, because I know, she interviewed him at one point, and I think she knew him because I think he lived in her building or something. And before, when she was significantly overweight, he was really dismissive of her and didn't really talk to her. And then, of course, she lost weight. So then this is one part that really devastated me when we were listening to it, is she was interviewing him and said, I don't think if I was the weight that I was now, I don't think we would be together. And he said that the reason he ended up getting with her or started to notice her is because she started to gain confidence. And then I started to think about that. And I was thinking about how much I feel like we are conditioned for our confidence to come from others, to come from outside instead of inside. So sometimes I think, I always used to think, well, I felt like I attracted more people, not physically, but even just relationships. I felt like, oh, I'm more confident. People want to be around me because, now I feel better about myself. But at the same time, I'm looking, and as I was researching, I came across a bunch of stuff about weight bias. And I thought, how much did that factor into it? Was the bias of weight that is so widely accepted in our society, and how much of that was influencing my quote unquote confidence. So when I did get smaller, did I really get confidence from within, or was it just I was getting all of this positive feedback externally, and then it rubbed off on me, and then I started believing what people were saying? So then I'm looking at all of the stuff with, weight bias and how it is so widely accepted.
I think that is spot on. Like trying to figure out like, is it that I'm more confident, or is it really that we live in a society where we worship a certain size? We
Mhm.
we pin so much to that size, not even realizing if that size is health. I know
Mhm.
a lot of people who fit the size mentality. Like they look really great as far as size is concerned. But health, and I'm not even talking about physical health, because this is holistic. Body
Mhm.
positivity isn't just your body size. It is, how do I feel about me, and how is my health mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, which is why we tackle all these different types of topics on this podcast, because how limited would it be if we just got on here and talked about physical nonsense? Because it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you lose all the weight. It doesn't matter if you're the ideal size. It doesn't matter if you're the picture of physical health. If you getting there means that you have to consistently restrict your diet. You got there via an eating disorder. You hate yourself at night. It doesn't matter how many people tell you you're beautiful, you're gorgeous. When you look in the mirror, you feel ugly, you feel unaccepted, you feel disgusting. That's not health, even if physically it shows. So I think I was listening to another TED Talk. I think you've sent this to me. And the lady who was speaking was talking about body obsession, that it's not, the problem isn't even just accepting our body. It's that our bodies are on our mind all the time. We're thinking about our bodies all the time. And we judge our bodies. We compare our bodies. Especially if you're trying to work on your body. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Like, one thing that I told my doctor is, I get that I'm healthy. I was like, but I understand that extra weight on my body is going to be extra weight on my knees, is that my arteries, like all the things internally, like hereditary. I want to live until I'm 100 years old. And I want to be able to get there by being healthy and just research based, right? Carrying extra weight for your height can lead to long-term effects. And I just don't want that for me. But when I think about my body right now, I still look at it in the mirror and like think, do I look good? And is everyone lying to me? Because when I was 333 pounds, people would come up to me and say, "You're beautiful." And that's where it goes, right? Because I was thinking about, there was this time I had friends who only knew me after I lost weight. And you'll remember this, Abigail, because this upset you really badly. And I remember we were downstairs in my mom's house, and she had my senior pictures up on the wall. And I was very large in my senior pictures. And I remember they all started laughing at me. They were like pointing, they were looking at me, made a big show of it. Oh my gosh, you were huge. And it didn't offend me. You were mortified.
Oh, no, I wasn't mortified. I was furious. Yeah. And I think the problem is, and part of it is it's really triggering for me just because all of my past insecurities and, being ridiculed for my size. But like, when I look at that person and I look at how I valued that person when she looked like that. And for them to laugh and ridicule. And I mean, mind you, I've had people that looked at my before pictures, and I don't care if they're like, wow, I cannot believe that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't get offended by that, because it is crazy. Because if I look at my before and I look at now, it's unbelievable. And I've had people say, if you hadn't told me that this was you, I never would have recognized you. I'm okay with that. And had they done that, I wouldn't have got upset. But and part of it was that they were super childish and immature. But I felt like, are we in high school that you're ridiculing this person who is a beautiful person? That person in that picture is a beautiful person. Not is now, not was. This person is a beautiful person. And I think the problem is, I don't know. I feel like, and one thing that, get back to that TED Talk, one thing that she said that I thought was really good is sometimes when we're talking about, body positivity, and we say, everybody is beautiful and every body is beautiful, but then we're still focusing on beauty. It's to say everybody's beautiful. Okay, well, can we look at our worth that is completely separate from how we look? I think that's the problem. It's just, I'm beautiful, you're beautiful, everybody's beautiful. Why does that matter? Why is that relevant? Why isn't it this person is such a wonderful person? When I talk to this person, I feel so connected to them. They're so caring, they're so loving, they're hilarious. I enjoy myself when I'm with them. They make me feel like a better person. Why is it that we can't focus on that? And it's just, we're all beautiful. Beauty, beauty, beauty. I feel like it's hammered into us all day, every day, and it's exhausting.
And it's so subjective, right?
Yeah.
Like, even probably one of the best male relationships that I ever had. Um, I remember like he was just so affirming, but I remember this one time we were hanging out and like I think I had like gotten out of the shower and I had no product in my hair and like it just looked a mess. In my opinion, right? This is like bedtime, getting towards bedtime Amy. And I remember we were talking and he like paused and he was like, "Your," he said, "your beauty takes my breath away." And I started laughing cuz I was like another time? Like not at this moment? And he was like, "No, like he said like physically yes." He was like, "But that's the lowest level." He was
Mhm.
like, "Physical beauty is subjective, right? And it's eye-catching." He was like, "But the beauty that like you admire is like the totality of a person." And I think you're right. I think that's where the focus has shifted away from, to where now it becomes like everything that makes me me, I discredit. It's not worthy of it. It doesn't matter if I'm compassionate, it doesn't matter if I am a hard worker, it doesn't matter if I'm a business owner, it doesn't matter that I'm giving. If I'm a little overweight or my lower belly looks like an extra tire, it's all discredited.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and and a lot of it isn't even what other people are projecting on us. It's what we end up, it's the pattern that we get into, right? Because so much of this is about self acceptance. When we talk about body positivity movement, the real person that needs to be positive about like the full you, all of you, is you. Because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people stop me, come up to me, and say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." It will never be enough if I don't think it.
Mhm.
Or it'll feel good, but when I go home and look in the mirror, I'm still going to be beating myself up. I'm still going to be thinking that I'm not enough and that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what I bring to the world, because the thing that we're like fed consistently is the only thing that matters, is the body you bring to the world.
Mhm.
And is that body accepted?
Right. I think it's so difficult, and a lot of me thinks that the body positivity movement is almost, I feel like people rising up and saying, I am no longer going to be shamed for the way that I look. And I think a lot of it, I mean, especially if somebody wants to get healthy, I we had at work, we have these CBTs, computer-based trainings that we have to do every quarter. And I think it was last quarter maybe, or it might have been the one before, and they had this a couple of them about weight bias and about bariatric care, and it was talking about, which medical professionals are huge at doing this, but how overweight people are treated and how they are viewed. And it's almost like, especially if somebody's going to the doctor, it said in there that a lot of physicians, they will, every opportunity that they get, they will bring up weight. So even if somebody goes in for an earache, it's like, "Oh, I'm here for my earache. Oh, by the way, did you know that you're really fat and you need to lose weight or you're going to die?" Like, I mean, yeah, they're aware. We're coming in because we need help. We don't want to talk about that. It's like we're constantly being berated. And I've experienced this, and I've been dismissed because when I go in and, I'm telling them I'm having issues with, what I think my thyroid is having issues. I've got nodules on them, and I got dismissed and said, "Well, you shouldn't have even had that test to begin with." So, and I'm thinking, well, how is that relevant? I'm still telling you I have issues. I'm having issues with hair loss. I'm having trouble losing weight, and I'm doing everything right. I am working out all the time. I can't remember a day in my life when I didn't have Weight Watchers at this point. I mean, I've been doing it for so long, and being dismissed and saying that, it's because, not saying it out loud, but overweight people are viewed as they're lazy, they're non-compliant with care, they're not disciplined, they have no self-control. And then, so I feel like there's so much shame behind it, even when you're trying to get help, even when people are trying to get healthy and lose weight. and they're dismissed, or it's like, because you are overweight, you have less value. And so then I feel like this body positivity movement, in a lot of ways, it's just people pushing back and saying, we're tired of being treated like this.
Yeah, and only being seen one way with
Mhm.
it's like the purest form of judgment, right? It's like
Yeah.
you don't know what's behind that body.
Right.
Whether it be a fit body, quote unquote, based on society standards, because so much of this is society and has very little to do, because if you even look at the medical research, like there's so much counter medical research of what health is. So many health professionals say the BMI is trash and
Mhm.
we shouldn't, but we're still following it, right? But for me, it's like there is an outcry that says, look at me beyond that, especially for women, because we're consistently objectified, right? That's the thing we strive with, right? We're told, like, the thing you want to strive with is you want to be a pretty girl.
Mhm.
That's the compliment, right? When you're young, what a pretty little girl. You want to be pretty. So then you're like striving towards, well, what does pretty look like? And the versions that we're getting has a one size fits all pretty. And when you can't be that level of pretty, you feel like a failure, you know?
Mhm.
And then, like, you don't know what's behind behind someone's body that's trauma based.
Yeah.
Even skinny people, right? There's so many people out there that might have, like, that might be in the right weight range, but are going home and binging and purging.
Mhm.
The times when I was struggling the most with bulimia, I was at my lowest weight and I was getting compliments. Oh, wow, you work out all the time. You're so disciplined and you look so good. Nobody knew that I was going to Kroger and I was spending like $45 on just trash food and eating for at least 2 hours and then vomiting for 2 hours and then crying myself to sleep. Nobody knew that, right?
Mhm.
So, like, it's like this level of judgment that is so damaging, and it starts at such a young age. Even
Mhm.
I remember, just growing up in religious and growing up in an environment where, in my view, everybody has a different experience. So I don't speak for an organization. I don't speak for anyone else but myself. But my experience in that religious organization, because it was so hyper focused on what you wore as a woman and how you presented, I hated my body. I'm already overweight. So as a teenage girl who's overweight, and I'm in the church, we were singing. So I'm on the platform and I'm spotlight center. So now you have my insecurities based on how big I was. But then having meetings afterwards talking about how short my skirt was, or how tight, or is my shirt too low, and how I'm using my body to bring my brothers into sin. And it became such a hatred for my body. I remember one time I was wearing this shirt and it had long sleeves. It was chiffon. And it had like a gap here and a gap at my forearm with like a button in between. And I remember I got called upstairs to the office and I got in trouble. And in that office, I had to take off my shirt and she sewed it closed.
I don't remember this at all.
I don't think I ever told you this story. And
That's
I
crazy.
remember sitting there thinking, this is normal. I'm a bad person. I came here in this environment and I dared to show this part of my arm. So because you could see my shoulder and my shoulder is shameful and shouldn't be shown, I'm a bad person. Right? So it was a combination of just like feeling like my body was the enemy in all areas. Carrying that level of self-hatred was overwhelming, which is why I think a lot of even the manic behaviors that I've had throughout my entire life when it comes to health are rooted in a lot of that. in what I felt like I needed to be something. I needed to be like thin and athletic. I needed to be that so that I could be accepted. And then, like in the church world, I needed to have a body that looked the part, right? But also that was covered, because this body is shame. I don't know, like it's shameful. And that was the message that I got, which was difficult to bear, and still difficult, to be honest, to continue to navigate, to heal from that.
Even thinking, I mean, going back to the weight bias from the medical professionals, because I'm telling you, when I was reading this, I was getting really incensed. And I was just thinking, and actually this just happened to me like a year ago. I went to the gynecologist, and I hadn't been in a while. And the one that I had gone to before, she'd retired. I really loved her. She was so sweet. She was amazing. So I had to go to this new one. So my friend from work told me, oh, go to this doctor. I really liked her. She was really good. She took a lot of time with me. She did a good job. I'm like, all right, so I'll go. So I scheduled an appointment. And mind you, I haven't been in a while. And this is the first time I've seen this doctor. So she comes in and basically like had me lay down, just went super fast, super rough. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? It was very awful and startling.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I had questions because, of course, mom had breast cancer. So then I'm asking, like, and mom had before, how she is. She was like, you need to ask them this and this and this and make sure you might need to have a mammogram. Yeah. So then I'm trying to ask her, and she kept like, I felt like she was trying to run away from me. Like every second I was like, well, wait, I have one more question. Wait, I have another one. I'm like, what is the hurry? And then I'm thinking about it as I'm looking back and as I did all this research, because my friend who went, I mean, she's not stick skinny, but she's smaller than me. And I'm like, does this have a factor in the way that I was treated? Because I mean, there's studies that show that doctors or providers spend less time in the room with a patient if they are overweight. So then I'm looking at that. I'm like, was that a factor? And then I'm starting to read all this stuff. And then I'm starting to get all paranoid. Like, were people treating me different because I was bigger? Do they treat me different because I'm not a size 2? And then all of a sudden I'm looking at the world and I'm like, this has made me a paranoid mess. Why is this such a big deal? Why is there so much emphasis put on this? It's overwhelming. The weight of it is crushing.
Yeah. And I think that this is why there's so much of an outcry of just like such a shift with the feminist movement and with the Me Too movement. Like so much of like the objectifying of women. And it's kind of like a don't talk about it. If you talk about it, then you're just creating trouble, or you're just trying to make it up, and I was thinking about this too, as I was like watching some of these videos and just thinking about my own bias. And I was thinking, I have prejudice. It's so crazy that like being on the other side of this, but still struggling through it. If I see someone massively overweight, I judge them. And I really had to think about that. Like,
I saw that too. And that was one of the things in the articles. And they did a bunch of research on medical students to try to find bias. And they said that those who had lost weight and kept it off were more judgmental. And then I started doing the same thing. I started self-reflecting. And I think it's almost like in your mind, you're saying, well, why can't they get it together? I got it together. Yeah. But then discounting all of the struggles that I had and all the times that I gained back 50 pounds and then lost 50 pounds again, and back and forth and back and forth. And then I looked at myself, I'm like, I need to do better. What's going on?
Yeah. And once again, you don't know what people are facing.
You don't.
Even when we interviewed Chris on our last episode, and she was talking about when she had Graves' disease, and she was talking about when she dropped all that weight. And everybody was like, what are you doing? You look so great. I have a disease.
Right. I'm sick.
That's how ignorant we are. We're praising like, oh, you must be doing something right. No, I'm sick. Yeah. And then complications of a surgery then made her gain all this weight. So we can do the opposite. What's wrong with her? Why? Right. Like, You don't know the story behind somebody's body. So this is where we can start to shift it, because this is the part that I really want to hammer home for all of us. Because one, I think it's super important for us to put the mirror in front of ourselves and ask ourselves, what is my relationship with my body? Like, what kind of relationship do I really have with my body? Because we can talk on and on about society and the way that we're judged, and some of this might never change. We might not wake up tomorrow and them saying size 18 is the way to go. You know, it probably won't be that way. And with the shift that continues, hopefully there is more of just a general of acceptance of knowing that everyone is not going to be a size 8. That's not everyone's story. That's not health for everyone. Let's just stop, because we're all different. What this really is about is your personal, it's what it's always about, your personal relationship with your body. When you look in the mirror, first of all, can you get in the mirror and just be naked and stand in the mirror and look at yourself naked? For some people, that's impossible. They can't do it. Once you stand in the mirror naked, are you able to look at your body where it's at and, one, show it gratitude? Because for some of us, we have punished our body. When I think about the years of abuse that I have done to my body, even with my eating disorder, the amount of just beat down upon beat down. And then I got into taking laxatives, and then like heavy working out. So then I'm like breaking wrists and ripping my leg open, and then going through like fasts, because I called them detoxes, but really it was just me looking at myself and being like, I'm too fat, starvation, juice only, or fast for 7 days. And I would pretend like it was for like some spiritual journey, but really I was like, I got to get this weight off. So I wouldn't feed it anything. So it's like this consistent negative relationship with my body, and really telling my body, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll never be enough. That's where it starts. Because when it starts there, that means that it doesn't matter who comes into my life and says, you're so beautiful, or you're such a great person, or I really admire whatever. They start really to compliment me for me. I'm still not going to feel enough because, well, I don't look like what I think I want to look like. And I think it has to start with taking steps to really nurture the relationship you have with not just your body, your entire being.
I agree. Yeah, I think that, and that was another thing. I keep going back to that TED Talk. It was really good. And one thing she said is that we need to look at our bodies not as an ornament, but as an instrument. So we shouldn't basically think, what does my body look like? We need to appreciate it for what my body does, how it gets me around, how strong it is, how healthy it is, the things that it allows me to do, instead of, oh, this is how it looks. It's so dressed up to be this perfect thing. This is something that I struggle with. I've struggled with my entire life. And honestly, I probably will continue to struggle with it, because it's something that we all do, whether we like to think it or not. And I think even the people who think their bodies are amazing, I mean, you're still constantly obsessed with it. If you think that you look beautiful and you're taking selfies all the time and constantly posting to social media, you're also obsessed with your body. I mean, you just are obsessed in a different way than I am. So I really want to personally try to work on that, because it's so unhealthy. And honestly, the body, it grows old. It starts to wrinkle. Things start to sag. It doesn't stay the same. But who I am on the inside, that's what stays the same. That's what fosters strong, meaningful relationships with other people. That's the person who can be a helper to other people. That's the person who can be compassionate and loving. And who cares what that person looks like? Although I say it, who cares? But then at the same time, I think
Struggle.
I really care, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so hard. It's a constant struggle.
Yeah, and I think even when it comes to romantic relationships, whether you're in a romantic relationship or you are at some point wanting that to enter into your life, that can be such a hindrance in that type of relationship, because it's like, if you don't love your body and you don't love yourself, you're consistently going to be looking to the other person like, affirm me, tell me I'm beautiful.
Mhm.
But it's not going to be enough, because even if they tell you that you're beautiful, if you don't believe it, you're going to think, well, you're just saying that, or
Mhm.
you just want to get something from me. And really, I have found in some of my interactions with men, I have found that the things that we think that men hold of value, not all men hold that of value. Men that are self-assured, men that understand the quality of a person and not just the quality of what a body looks like, they value the person. And that's really the type of person you want in your life anyways. Because if somebody
Mhm.
you only value the way I look, then it
You're
looks
a
like
garbage human being.
yeah. That is such a small portion to who I
Yeah.
am. And I would challenge all of you to understand that the body, that what is encased inside of this is so much more important, is paramount, is connected to who you are. Like, I have curly hair, but curly hair is not my only defining characteristic, right? Like, that's something that physically defines me, but I am like a total human being. So this is something that I want to challenge us with. And one of the things that's like so huge to really being happy about who you are, in the totality of who you are, is to get into a practice of gratitude. And I want to challenge us over the next 7 days. Let's just start with 7 days. Each day, I want you to take a moment and I want you to reflect over who you are. And I want you to make a gratitude practice of being grateful for something about yourself. It can be physical, it can be spiritual, mental, whatever part of you that you are choosing. I want you to focus on gratitude, because so much of the not being positive about who we are in the totality is because we're feeding ourselves everything we're not, or everything
Mhm.
that we think we're not, or every way that we feel like we're falling short. When
I
really,
wanna add to that. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
no, go
but
ahead.
I wanna add to that too. I feel like when we are doing something that we're grateful for, I think we should focus on something physical, but I think that physical thing should have nothing to do with appearance. So, for example, I can be really grateful that, Monday I was super tired when I got home from work, and I got home and I thought I'm going to work out, and I did. It was a high intensity workout. I've not done a whole lot of really high intensity since I got over COVID. And as I was doing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I really got to get back into it. But being grateful for that, and it had nothing to do with how I looked. I looked a hot mess when I was working out, but I wasn't even focused on that. I was focused afterwards on how much better I felt and how satisfied I was and proud of myself I was, that I actually put that into my day. And it was more spontaneous. I hadn't even planned to work out, but I thought, well, I have the time, I might as well. So something like that, something to be grateful for. So, I woke up and, I walked around and was grateful because I know somebody who, maybe somebody who's, bedridden or in a wheelchair and can't get around, or somebody who is really sick, and then just look at your body and think, I'm really grateful for what my body does for me, not I'm grateful for how it looks in this new dress or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so much more, right? Like, I
Mhm.
remember one time I've been doing a gratitude practice for about a year now. And I remember I got into this phase of like feeling really emotional about my body. And I was like waking up and like writing things like, I'm just so grateful for my fingers. I have 10 of them. I love that I get to paint the nails. I love that they look pretty. I love that I can write. I love I can open doors. And it was like that whole day I kept looking at my hands like, you phenomenal fingers. Thank you. Thank you, fingers. And like, even like, like my legs, like I'm walking and I'm like, man, these legs are so strong. Thank you, legs. It's like opening yourself up to healing the relationship with you in the totality of you, all of you, not just part of you, not just the part that you feel like people accept, not just the part that you can accept right now. It is a work in accepting all of you. And this is something that me and Abigail still struggle with. I mean, even on this podcast, I'm sure you can probably hear undertones of things that we still need to heal from. We haven't made it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's why we're here, is because we're still learning this. And I think one of the biggest parts of going through therapy, and we were talking about this when we were kind of talking about we're going to do an upcoming episode on eating disorders. And I was telling Abigail, I was writing in my journal, and I flipped back at the beginning of the journal. It was like 3 years ago. And it was before I started going to therapy. And I remember it was like every day I was like writing and just beating myself up because I couldn't conquer bulimia. And like, I felt like I was just lost and I hated myself. And I like reading those pages made me cry because I felt so trapped. I felt so alone. I hated myself. I just wanted out of my body into another body. And I feel like the journey of my health, and specifically the journey that I took with my therapist, happened when I really started trying to accept all of me and see me not just as a one-dimensional physical character, but this total Amy. And the full package of Amy is not too much. Amy is not defined by she's too loud, she's too opinionated, she's too big, her lower abs are too large, she's, her thighs are too wide. It's like this too, right? The too much. Mm-hmm. And it was like shifting that and just telling myself, no, I'm not too anything. I am Amy. And I am accepting that. Even the parts of myself that sometimes I hate, it's like pushing myself back and saying, no, the relationship I have with myself is the most important. And it's the one that we neglect the most, is really looking. And I would challenge all of you. Can you look at yourself and say, I have a positive relationship with myself, that I love all of me? And if you can't say that, then take whatever journey you need to go on to say that. Because until you say it, doesn't matter what anyone else says. It won't make a difference until you're able to say it. Okay, so this was a heavy one. We told you at the beginning, this is a heavy one, but I think it's a needed conversation that we need to have, because even with like doing all the research that we did this week and watching so many of these YouTube videos, it has left me and Abigail in kind of somber spirits, but not somber because we're sad, somber because it is a check. It's a reality check to ourselves, to remind ourselves what this is really about. Because it's not about nutrition. It's not about working out. It's not about the right clothes that we're wearing. Like, all of those things are byproducts to the thing that's foundational in the source, which is, can you accept who you are right now, where you are, and then allow yourself to naturally lean into the total health that is yours to have. But this is so foundational. So thank you for joining this conversation. We want to hear from you. So what we want to do is we want to direct all of you to go to our Instagram page at One More Cookie Pod. And underneath the video clip, we want you to comment. What did you get from this message? You don't have to like write a paragraph or be super vulnerable, but what did you get from the message of body positivity? How are you going to implement it into your life? Even through the gratitude practice that we just suggested, what are you finding? What are you doing? Talk to us, mostly because we're chatters. We want to talk and we want you to talk back. So leave us a comment and let us know. And join us for our next episode. The next one, we're going to be talking about the importance of building a community. And in 2 more episodes, this is where I'm really excited. We have another guest that's going to come on, and we're going to talk about it a little bit with the next episode, but I like to tease these now and then. And she's going to talk about her journey, and she made it to her weight goal, but the difficulty that she's had on her maintenance journey. So I'm really excited just to be getting more people into this community and talking and sharing with you guys. Thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you next time on the next episode of Just One More Cookie.